So we are live. Okay, great. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Entrepreneurs 11. With me is Dr. Subhrangshu Sanyal, who's the CEO of IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. Dr. Sanyal, thanks for accepting our invite and welcome to
Thank you.
Entrepreneurs 11.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let us directly jump into the first segment, which I call Gully Cricket. So, if you could share something about your background for the benefit of the audience, that would be great.
Sure. This is an interesting way to start gully cricket. And if you hear my background, I'm sure you will say that this person doesn't know what he is doing or what he does. Because whatever I studied, I hardly practice that. Okay. And whatever I'm doing now, that was never in the blueprint when I studied. Okay.
Right, that's what makes
So,
it more interesting.
yeah. So I studied mechanical engineering. Uh, and right after college, maybe just 1 year stint with like in the core industry.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was into IT, which
Right.
I didn't study. So it was from scratch, A, B, C, D, you can say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I continued my career with some of the uh, top performing IT companies.
Right. Right.
Had great exposure working with real top, like doing projects for big brands.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that itself was a great learning experience for me. Got exposure to the best practices, project management, which I think at early stage of my career that was extremely valuable.
Right. Right.
Then every 5 years you will see, if you study my career graph, every 5 years some change happens. So my
Right.
mind works in that way. That there's some alarm which rings that you need to do something different. So after around let's say 6 7 years after I left campus and joined job, I
Right.
thought that what's the next step. Then I realized that uh, you know uh, just by knowing technology is not enough. Initially it was enough.
Sure.
In the Y2K days, like my career started almost very close to the Y2K days,
Right.
just a few years back. And that's when the IT outsourcing and all started in
Started.
a big way,
Absolutely.
right? So, I can tell you many stories about how the Western world look at outsourcing, and
Correct.
we had a tough job convincing them that yes, this can be done from India.
From
So
India.
I'm very happy and proud that I was part of that age group, which uh, you know uh, which took up a mission that we need to prove to the world that India also has the strength to do
Right.
it.
Right. Right.
And the rest is history. You have seen how IT industry has grown.
Right.
So I witnessed that growth
Mm-hmm.
and being part of that industry. So after 7 8 years, I was observing a shift that the clients, the businesses, they
Right.
are preferring more understanding of business, the more functional knowledge, how you
Correct.
understand the business,
Correct.
more
Correct.
focused on ROI. I mean, IT is an enabler. How IT can give us more, a better ROI or
Absolutely.
whatever. So then I realized that, I'm learning the hard way. Maybe there is something which I can do a little bit of formal studies.
Sure.
So that motivated me to apply for CAT after
Mm-hmm.
8 years of
Okay.
working. And
Right.
by God's grace, I could get into IIM Calcutta.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so those 2 years were again, I would say, transformational. Uh, it's not what you study there,
Right.
but the kind of peer group you have.
Right. The
Um,
kind
you
of
know,
exposure that you get.
yes, exposure you have. It's not that you are studying marketing, finance, and all. I think that you can study anywhere.
Right.
But the entire atmosphere, I think, you know.
Absolutely. Very formative.
So we say that the water there actually changes you.
Right.
So yeah, so that helped me develop a new vision
Mm-hmm.
about businesses,
Correct.
and from that time, I thought that maybe uh, if I can play a role in creating a business like that. But at that time also, the word entrepreneurship or the startups, it was not existing.
Right.
So I
Right.
actually I took some effort and spoke to a few props, tried to get a few friends who can who believe in the same idea and do it, but I couldn't do it. And again, I joined the corporate. So again, another 5 years there,
Right.
similar to this consulting, process consulting, system consulting, a little bit on that. But again, after 5 years, again that alarm was ringing.
Went off.
Right? What's next? I mean, are you going to die just by doing consulting, or there's something else you'd like to do?
Right. Right.
Then I got motivated by one entrepreneur who is
Mhm.
like NRI, and he injected that belief that you know I can do it. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
at that time, if you consider my financial situation, I was the only earning member with a family of four. My wife, first child, and my parents.
Right. Right.
It's too risky to leave.
Take that. Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But I don't know what gave me that motivation. I just left one fine day
Hmm.
saying that let me try this out, like a one-person army, obviously supported by that entrepreneur. I
Right.
was trying to set up uh, uh, a product, a financial product development uh, solution. I would say a financial product. The solution was that. So, and I know when you work in corporate for let's say 10+ years, you develop that baggage that I am a
Correct. Correct.
superstar, I know it all,
Yeah, you get
right?
used to a certain way of life. Absolutely.
Yes. But when you try to do things by yourself, which is now I know it was a startup. At that time, I was
Right.
not
Right. Right.
sure, but now I know it was a startup. Then you are you know hard reality hits you, and
Right.
then you realize that actually I know nothing. So
Hmm.
it's learning from scratch. So that was a big learning for me. That trying to, while you are under the umbrella of a big corporate, you are
Right.
actually
Right.
blind to so many things that's happening. You are working in a silo, but when you try to do a startup, then you
You can do
actually
everything.
realize the things.
Right.
That was a big learning for me, and that actually changed again my vision of my, and
Hmm.
direction of my life,
Right.
which was never planned. I failed like in around 15 to 18 months. I think I could stick to that
Right.
business. Then I had to quit. Uh, uh, you know, Initially it was a struggle. You miss that SMS, month end SMS and all, and it was very very uncomfortable. But then
Right.
you
Right.
slowly get used to it. So you start getting the kick, but you're still struggling. Then you realize a lot of things the hard way. So that actually I got the first flavor of entrepreneurship that point in time.
At that point. Right.
Uh, so after I quit, because I realized that financially I'm getting very badly hit,
Right. Right. Right.
and then kids are going to school, parents, there's a medical cost and all, a typical Indian middle class story. That I said, maybe I'm too harsh on my family. Uh, then I thought, okay, learning from my experience, let me try something part time, and when I get funding and all, then I'll jump full time. Okay, so I thought I'm clever now, uh,
Hmm.
but you know what? I failed faster,
Hmm.
and I realized that no big thing can be done by
Okay.
putting part-time effort.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I was getting some cash, but whatever dream I had, I couldn't realize because I could always see. So there was a frustration building up. That because I know I need to do a lot of things, but I have a job, part-time job to take care, and uh, then you have the uh, pressure of the startup. Is
Right.
very very difficult.
Very difficult. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I failed again. I tried another one. Okay, but now I was again every time I'm becoming more and more intelligent.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
I got somebody who said that I'll be full time. Okay, so you can afford to be
Correct.
part time.
Correct.
You
Correct.
join me when, but that also didn't work because then that person later on when we got a little bit of angel funding, that person thought, no, why should I give so much equity to this person who is part time?
Absolutely. Correct. Correct.
Okay, so then I realized partnership issues. So these three failures
Mm-hmm.
uh, actually taught me great lessons of life, not only about business, but also about relationships,
About
about
human being.
being
Absolutely.
resilient. But in spite of that, those failures, I always felt that. But I started liking it. Okay, that's the fun part of it.
Right.
In
Right.
spite of being tortured, I liked it. I said, now I don't want to go back to a corporate.
Corporate work.
If
Absolutely.
I can stick to this entrepreneurial ecosystem, that would be fine. But I realized that I'm good for nothing. 3 times failure is enough. Okay. Then my alma mater, IIM Calcutta, IIM Calcutta was thinking about creating this incubator,
Mission
business
center.
incubator.
Right.
And since I was always connected to my institute and all, I learned about it. And then when they thought of recruiting somebody or
Right.
hiring somebody to lead this initiative, obviously I applied. And again, it was just out of the blue. I mean, there's nothing
Right.
planned.
Right.
I said I couldn't do anything. Maybe my knowledge of failure, I can tell starters what not
Very
to
good.
do. What to do, I don't know. Otherwise, I would have made a big business.
Hmm.
And that started my journey with IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. And let me tell you, I joined 1st January 2015. Okay.
Right.
So it's almost becoming 6 years
Six
now.
years now.
I
Right.
never realized that I'll stick for 6 years in a business incubator, which I had no clue what this incubator is supposed to do. So every day it was a learning experience for me. But let me tell you, this last 5 years, 5+ years that I worked with IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, this phase has been the most satisfying phase in my life.
Right. Right.
And I thank God, thank IIM Calcutta that they have, I got the opportunity to be part of it. Now, why and how, maybe later on I can share with you. That's the
the
journey.
the important thing is that the alarm bell of 5 years did not go this time.
It is ringing, but I don't know what to do.
Right, right, right. So I think very, very interesting journey, and can be a learning lesson for everybody, especially to the tune of not seeing failure as failure, but failure at a particular activity and not failure in general. So we move on to our next segment, Dr. Sanyal, called Power Play. So essentially, here we discuss about the venture, that is IIMCIP, and what are a few key aspects that are unique to IIM Calcutta Innovation Park. So if you could briefly touch upon what IIMCIP does and what is the difference that it brings to ventures and what in its approach.
Right, surely. I will add one point which I missed
Right,
in the
right,
last
absolutely,
segment,
absolutely.
that I did one more interesting thing. So
Mm-hmm.
when I was doing my startup and I was struggling and all, sometimes I had time also at my disposal because it's not like a corporate, you have a fixed
Right,
time.
right,
I
right,
could.
right.
So then I thought that let me take advantage of this opportunity and apply for my PhD.
Correct, correct, correct.
Okay. So the challenge that was there, I actually converted it to some extent to an opportunity. So
Right, right,
while I
absolutely.
was out of the corporate and doing all these things, I could complete my PhD thanks to that failure experience.
Correct, correct. And a very interesting subject that you have chosen for your PhD. So that I think
Right.
we can, yeah,
Yes, because that was the emerging thing
correct,
that.
correct, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, now coming to IIM Calcutta Innovation Park, since I am with this organization since its inception,
Right,
I can tell you this, that how the vision of this organization shaped up.
sure.
So initially, when we started, we discussed that. So there are say 200 plus incubators at that point in time, right?
Right, right,
So
right,
what we want to do, we want to be another one, or we want to be some, an incubator with a difference, right?
right, right,
So now probably we have around 500 incubators or more currently. I'm
right,
talking
right,
about, but at
absolutely.
that time it was around 200 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So then we thought that okay, let us then approach this entire process like a startup. Okay,
Sure.
so we want to see ourselves as a startup for startups. So this
Right,
is something which we have decided right from day one, that though we are within the institute, but still our thought process will be very different.
right,
And unless we behave ourselves like a startup, we'll not be able to help the startup.
correct, correct,
So
absolutely.
as a first step, what all startups we recommend is that you think about that what problem are you solving, right?
Sure.
What need are you addressing? So we also did the same thing, that what need we want to address, which is not being solved by others. What
Others.
is the gap? So we identified there are two gaps which we want to address based on that scenario. First thing is that being in the east, though we have a national level mandate, but being in the eastern part of the country, when I say east means east and northeast. So Northeast, there are 8 states, and the eastern part, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, there are another 4. So around 12 states we are talking about. The entrepreneurship ecosystem is at a very nascent state.
Sure,
Okay?
sure.
And nobody is actually taking the lead to do something for this ecosystem.
Correct.
There are obviously people are working in silos, bits and pieces. People are contributing, but nobody is scaling up
Right,
to
right.
create a wider impact in that region.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that was a gap, and this region is not in the entrepreneurship radar of the country. If you look at the data and all, we said that okay, can we address this gap? Being IIM Calcutta, we are not like any other incubator. We have a very strong social connection.
Right, right.
So can we take this as a mission? So that is the first problem that we want to solve.
Right.
The second problem is what kind of entrepreneurs? Okay, everybody is chasing unicorns. So would we like to chase unicorns, or we'd like to do something else? Then we decided, look, India as a country, I think 70% of the population is not impacted by these unicorns mostly.
Right, right.
Right?
Services, they're chargeable
right?
services.
So we still have pharma suicides. We still have, primary healthcare where people are, in fact, not getting access to very basic facilities. Now look at the situation of the villages during this pandemic on the education, right?
Absolutely.
Though those technologies which have become unicorn, they are not touching their lives.
Sure.
And millions of crores of kids are somehow in touch with studies, right?
Barely surviving.
Right. So who will solve their problem? Right. So we said that entrepreneurship is the only solution. We said that can we promote entrepreneurship which addresses these big challenges which exist in India? Correct. And that is what we call is social entrepreneurship. Okay? Yeah, that's what we call social entrepreneurship. And this, we said that this would be the second problem that we want to address.
Right.
Okay. I'll just take a 10 seconds break. Just a 10 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Working from home challenges.
Absolutely.
The kids always demand your attention. Okay. So this is the new normal. So
we will have to adjust, and
so you need to excuse me for the break.
Correct.
But
No, absolutely. Please.
Anyways, so these two gaps we said we'll address, and this is where we find that not many incubators are addressing these two gaps. Okay. That's how we started. And if you look at our activities are aligned to this vision. And probably we are the one of the leading incubators promoting social entrepreneurship in the country.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Absolutely.
If you look at ecosystem development, the kind of scale that we have achieved. See, I told you that we started. We thought that we will work as a startup, right?
Right.
For the startup, again, scale is important, right? How can you be scalable, right? You do just want to be, one incubator operating within the boundary of IIM Calcutta.
Right.
That's one approach. The other approach is that would you like to support
more people?
Yes, who can't come to IIM Calcutta.
Correct. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, there's a much bigger population who can't come to IIM Calcutta.
Right.
So we said that it's our responsibility. In fact, this is the belief of the institute, the vision of the institute. That if you look at the logo, in the background, in my background.
Right.
So you see the gear and leaf, right?
Right.
So that shows that we have focus on both.
Right.
Agriculture as well as technology.
Right. So
and the right blend needs to happen. I cannot just focus on that side, ignoring the ground realities.
Right.
And that we have actually inherited from the institute logo. That's what IIM Calcutta believes.
Correct.
So with that, we started, and to create scale, you need to have partners, strong partners. You cannot do everything alone. And
Sure.
who can be the strongest partner? The government.
Correct. Correct.
Firstly, right from inception, we are fortunate to get support of the Department of Science and Technology, NSTDB, who recognized as a TBI. We got some grant to start our operations, right? So the startup got the first funding,
Right.
okay, and funding as a grant.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. But
Yeah. No
thanks to
debt, clean
support,
balance
we
sheet.
could, huh?
No debt, clean balance sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are not for profit. So,
Right. Right.
but then we realize that we need to be sustainable. We cannot
Correct.
just,
Correct. Work
depend
on
on
it.
grant forever.
Right.
So all the challenges you see a startup faces, as incubator we face.
Right. Right.
And see, we need to raise fund not only for ourselves, we need to raise fund for our startups also.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And through that, we fund the startup. So our challenge is actually
Go for it.
manifolds.
Absolutely. Correct.
We said, okay, how do we solve this challenge?
Mm-hmm.
That means we need strong partners.
Mm-hmm.
So from the government of India, we are, partnering with the various departments, DST, Ministry of IT, Ministry of Biotechnology, who are supporting our mission. The
Right.
second part is, which is very different, unique for us. We are
Mm-hmm.
officially partnering with the state government,
Right. Right.
because state governments have a challenge that how do I motivate the youth to take up
To
entrepreneurship?
take over.
Kaun banega entrepreneur, right? Everybody wants to be the crorepati. And they thought that IIM Calcutta, with our experience, can actually help in
Mm-hmm.
implementing it. So I'm very happy to share with you, we are the official knowledge partner of 5 states in this region.
Oh, great. Great.
West Bengal, where we are.
Right.
Yeah. So we initially worked with the MSME department. Recently, we signed MOU with the State Council of Science and
Science
Technology,
and
again for state level entrepreneurship.
right.
Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Arunachal. I don't think many people even visit those states like Arunachal and
Right.
Assam, and Mizoram and Meghalaya. But our people travel district level, and we follow a proactive approach to hunt those promising innovators who are
Right.
working silently in the villages or in the districts.
Especially for
And we
grassroots
try
level.
to, for grassroots level, but
Right.
leveraging innovation, some kind of technology, right?
Sure.
Technology did not be always ICT,
Right. Right. Absolutely.
agriculture related technology,
Correct.
even, let's say tea,
Mm. Mm.
this Northeast, Darjeeling, Assam.
Right.
So
Big time.
technology related to tea, right? Which can be the strength of India. So
Correct.
our
Correct.
focus is that. And
Sure.
I'm happy to share with you that over this period of last 3-4 years, where we started engaging with the Northeast ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
we have set up 2 more incubation centers, one in Guwahati, another in Shillong, with the support of the local government, the state
Correct.
government.
Correct. Correct.
And the fourth one is going to be up operational very soon in Itanagar, which is Arunachal.
Right, right, and I think that is phenomenal because these states, especially given the look east policy and which is
Yes,
a natural development as well, this work is going to benefit a lot of people. So, Dr.
yes,
Sanyal, one question that I had was, so typically it is easier to assess pure play commercial enterprises. So when,
mm,
let's say, a commercial venture comes to you, you can see the ROI, you can see the profit, even though they are projections, or you
yes,
can see the traction. On the other hand, you see social ventures who have limited financial impact, but they have a large social impact. So, how do you
yes.
weigh these things? How do you judge whether a social enterprise is befitting or is worth incubating in IIMCIP?
Right, right, absolutely. See, this social enterprise, this is a very tricky entity, okay?
Correct, correct.
So first of
Absolutely.
all, the entrepreneurs who are social entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
they have started this venture because they wanted to solve a
Problem.
social problem, right?
Right,
A big problem,
right. 100%.
which is typically, we call it the base of the pyramid kind of
Right, right, right,
challenges, right? But they need to do it in a sustainable fashion.
right. They have to be
So,
profitable.
right. So it's a spectrum. On one side, you have the pure play grant seeking model,
Mm-hmm.
where
Okay.
it's like a tap. Like
Right.
if you get grant, you will operate. If the tap becomes dry, then you need to
You need to
stop your operation.
pause the
Right?
button, right?
Yes. On the other spectrum, you're talking about the pure play businesses, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which only focus on return, financial returns. Correct.
Right.
So these entities are in between.
Correct.
So
Right.
this is what we promote, that you must leverage strongly business model.
Sure.
Whatever traditional business models are there, with an unit economics, with a large market, scalability. Yeah, am I audible?
Yes. Yes. Yes, you are.
Okay, first, for a few seconds, I will stop. Anyways, so what I'm saying is that these startups have, primary focus, impact is their first focus,
Mm-hmm.
but they need to follow the standard principles of business, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Having a surplus generating model. And this is what we promote. And when you look at the ROI for enterprises, we look at the ROI in multiple dimensions. The
Right.
first dimension is financial ROI, which you all understand. The
Right.
second dimension is social ROI.
Correct. Correct.
Now, the social ROI typically on a very high level, the standard measurement would be that sorry, there's some disturbance in the net. Just
Right.
be with
Right.
me. I'm trying to change the network so that it becomes.
Correct.
Yeah, I shifted the network now.
Yeah. I think
Can you hear me all right now?
I can hear you. I think your video stream is stuck.
Okay, let me just stop. Now is it better?
Mm, actually, it is. I
Can you see
can't
me now?
see. No, I can't. Yeah. Yeah. It is better now.
Can't see.
Right.
Better now? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Now I think it's back.
So
Yeah,
you were
sorry.
saying
Uh,
something about pure play. So measurement
right.
of ROI, two types.
Yeah, measurement of ROI.
Correct.
So there are two dimensions. One is the financial ROI, which you all understand.
Right.
The other is the social ROI. So
Absolutely.
the challenge they're trying to solve, how it is impacting the lives of people. For
Correct.
example, how many lives touched,
Right.
how many employment generated, right?
Correct. Correct.
Let's say if you're working with farmers, what is the incremental income
Sure.
generated by the farmers? Okay,
Sure.
Things like this. If it's education,
Mm-hmm.
what is the, if you want to measure the quality, first of all, what is the retention rate, right?
Right.
We have
Right.
the dropout rate, right?
Right.
So did you reduce the dropout rate? Hmm. Or then we are talking about the outcome, okay?
Correct.
The quality of education. So all those aspects are important when we talk about the social ROI.
Right.
Hmm. And I'm happy to share with you, let's say uh, uh, we have incubated around 50 startups from the Kolkata center,
Right.
and the social ROI is tremendous.
Right.
So
Right.
we're
Absolutely.
talking about around 40 to 50,000 direct and indirect new jobs created,
Jobs created.
and more than 6 lakhs lives impacted through their solutions that the startups are doing. Uh, but having said that, they have a good revenue also.
Right.
So that combined revenue would be around 150 crores for this 50 startups.
Please start up.
Obviously,
Right.
not equally divided, but out of that, around 30% are 1 crore or beyond. So that proves that if you are trying to solve a base of the pyramid problem, you can also make money,
Make money.
and
Absolutely.
it can be also worth investing in those
Mhm.
kind of businesses. So
Right.
that is our strong focus. It's not that we don't accept any other kind of startup. Don't get me
Right.
wrong,
Right.
but we put more effort on those entrepreneurs, those kind of
Commercial plus social, the
yes,
blended.
yes, for profit. We don't
Right.
work
For
with
profit.
not for profits. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you mentioned that you work a lot with the government, and you have made it a point to work with the government, the local community, and to an extent the corporates as well, right?
yeah,
So, and IMCIP has been one of the more visible incubation centers and incubators throughout the country. So, I wanted to understand, Dr. Sanyal, if I mean, what is the importance of this synergy, and how why did you choose to go with the government as opposed to going in the typical incubation center fashion?
right. See, again, we think like startups. We think
Yep.
scalability.
Right, right,
Now, if you want to scale, who can be your best partner?
right,
The state government. They have the biggest network, they have the biggest reach, and they have the biggest problem,
right, right.
right? So it's a natural choice. Now, on the other hand, if you look at the sustainability of our incubator,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we
Mm-hmm.
need to earn money, okay,
Correct, correct.
sustain ourselves.
Right.
We need to raise money to sustain ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
not only for us, but also for our startups.
Right.
Now, who are the biggest supporters for this cause?
Mm-hmm.
The government
Right.
and some corporates, some very, very, socially conscious
Socially
corporates.
conscious corporates.
For
Right.
example, since our inception, we have a very strong bonding with the Tata Group,
Right.
and we run one of the biggest social entrepreneurship challenges with the Tata
Mhm.
Group called
Right.
Tata Social Enterprise
Right.
Challenge.
Right.
Then we work with another corporate on women entrepreneurship program. Okay, so this is the source of our
Right.
funding.
Right.
So doing good, but also being sustainable. So this is
Sustainable.
the challenge.
I think this is startup for startups personified. So I think that makes a
Yes.
lot of sense. So we move to our third segment, which is Silly Point, which is more on the lines of a rapid fire. So it's going to be a more light-hearted, fun thing. So
Hmm.
let me move on to the first question. What is the one most surprising thing that has changed in you after you got into entrepreneurship?
Hmm. Uh, I think I became a much better um, marketing person,
Hmm.
because when we work in corporates,
Correct.
uh, many of
Not
us
necessarily required.
being techies, we don't need it. We rather
Right.
focus on the production side, development side. We are
Right.
so happy with the technology. But when you go for entrepreneurship, you realize end of the day, demand drives supply.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is all
Okay, so
about
that
marketing.
focus, yes, that focus changed, and that is helping me now as well.
Right. Right. Very
Every day
important
it's helping.
insight. Very important insight for entrepreneurs. So, what do you like to do to relax yourself?
Yeah, so it keeps on changing.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you that I pick up some strange interests. Okay, um, after I joined IMCIP, my traveling increased a lot. Okay, I
Right.
anyway love to travel, but my traveling increased a lot in Northeast and all. And
Mm-hmm.
then I developed the hobby of taking pictures of birds, or birding, you can say,
Right. Right.
from zero. And then I found a lot of interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that photography, if you get into that habit, then it's like a
It's very
crazy,
difficult to leave. Yes. Yes.
and you
Right.
spend a lot of money on photography
Yeah.
as well. You buy new gadgets and cameras, but
Right.
that's something which is relaxing. Even in the campus, let me tell you that typically during lunchtime and all, I quickly finish my lunch, and we have a beautiful campus. and it has 7 water bodies, very, very green campus, lots of birds. It's like a bird sanctuary, you can say. So I studied in the campus, I worked for first few years. I never realized that because I didn't develop that eye.
Right, right.
But when I started this birding thing, then I realized, oh man, I'm sitting, in the
Yeah.
inside the gold mine. So
Right.
whenever I have stressed out, I don't know how to take care of the operational cost, how to solve the status problem. To relax, I have a
Work.
camera in my office. Okay,
Correct, correct.
I just take out my camera, take a like a 45 minutes walk within the campus, and I'm very, very relaxed. Okay,
Very
and
productive hobby, I must say.
no, one more crazy habit I have developed recently during the pandemic. Okay, the pandemic I couldn't go for birding, right?
Right.
So and all these stress factors are there around us. We are always so
Constantly
scared
thinking
that
about
what will
things.
happen.
Right, right.
The only relaxing area that I had in my house is in my terrace. Okay,
Oh, okay.
and when I go there, thankfully due to pandemic, the sky cleared up due to
Right, 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 right,
low pollution and all. Now I could see
right.
a lot of stars and planets and all.
Mm-hmm.
Just I started stargazing like that. Okay,
Right.
and then I took out my camera. I have a decent camera and
Mhm.
started focusing on the stars and all,
Right,
and I could
right,
identify a lot of wonderful objects in the sky.
right.
So now I can tell you which planet is what. Okay, I could
Okay, okay.
take real good images of Saturn and Jupiter. You'll be amazed to see.
So I think
Okay,
another example of how to turn a constraint into an opportunity.
absolutely.
Right,
We had the full moon 3 days back,
right,
Purnima,
right, right.
and this is again in November. We had the second full moon, and this is a rare happening.
Mm-hmm,
It's like a blue moon, we call it, right?
right, right.
So all these things I never realized actually, but now I am so conscious about it.
Correct. And it sounds to me that it is so much fulfilling that it gives you a lot of balance in life when you are working as well. So amazing
Yeah.
choices both. Um, Okay, so my next question to you would be, if there is one piece of advice that you would give to 20-year-old Subhrangshu Sanyal, what
Hmm.
would that be?
Uh, we are talking about in general or related to entrepreneurship.
No, in general, in general.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, 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 I can now.
Sorry,
I,
the network is not supporting me today.
no problem.
No, your question is from the entrepreneurship angle or in general?
General, more from a general point of view.
Okay, I think continuous learning is something which I would advise. Why 20 years old, even 40 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying that sometimes you learn something
Right,
and it may not have immediate reward,
benefits, right.
but this learning never goes waste.
Was waste, absolutely.
Somewhere or other, in some part of the life, you will see that it's helping you.
Correct,
So always focus on learning. Doesn't matter how big you are, where you are in the corporate ladder or whatever. That is something
right,
which I have seen in my life work for
correct, correct, correct. Okay, so my last question of this segment,
me.
if one day, I'm not sure if you have aspirations for that, but if let's say one day you become the minister who is responsible for startups and policy governance of startups, what would be your first step?
The first step would be to actually focus on changing the mindset. Okay, still a large part of India
Mm-hmm.
doesn't believe that entrepreneurship would
Right.
be a career of choice. In fact, people are not supported. But thanks to the startup India promotion and all, people now
Getting more
startups have
right.
definitely a lot of respect. But I think it has not even penetrated uh, even the
True.
surface of the entire society. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we should have strong support
Mm-hmm.
for the youth, for the youngsters
Mm-hmm.
who from the college days would like to take up entrepreneurship. Now
Right.
all the support is directed towards providing funds, providing machines and all.
Right.
But in spite of that, you will not see
Right.
success,
It's very
because end of
convincing.
the day, when you decide
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
take up entrepreneurship, your
But
parents, your uncles and aunts will tell you that this is not a
you
good
should not do it.
choice.
Right. Right.
So you give up. How can you bridge that gap? That
Right.
is what I think is one of the missing
Key
things.
important lessons. Right. Right. Uh, Fair. I think we can move on to our last and final segment of the evening, which is slogovers.
Hmm.
So I would want to rather build up on the last thing that you mentioned about people not, having the mindset or not being ready to consider entrepreneurship as a viable career choice.
Hmm.
So essentially, do you see this as a generational gap, in the sense that do you see that people who are still the decision makers, are they more focused on salaried jobs vis-a-vis the youth who is willing to take the risks, or do you think it is more of a geographical tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 kind of a differentiation?
It's not. It's not. I think it exists. Okay. Now the
Right,
point is, some people will confess, some people will not admit that.
right,
Okay,
right.
in front of public,
Correct.
but still it's deep in the mindset. I'll tell you, even within IIM Calcutta, I've seen a couple of students who developed brilliant business plans. Even they started earning money also.
Okay.
Okay, but during placement season, they didn't opt out. They
Appeared for the interviews.
appeared for the interviews. They
Right.
got good jobs, and they gave up the startup.
Startup.
Then, and I asked them, why are you doing it? Because now is the right time that you can raise funds and all, and you can grow.
Right, right, absolutely.
So the what I hear from them is that uh, my parents are not supporting me. I'm having a tough time, and they say that if you go for this startup thing, you will not get a good match. These are the kind of comments I get,
Right, right.
and this is not from one person, not only from IIM Calcutta students or whoever. I think it's a general
It's a large issue. Right, right. You're absolutely
comments that I hear, right? And see, the other aspect that we see nowadays, the cost of education has also gone up tremendously.
right. Right.
Look at the top IIMs and all, or even any B school like that.
Correct,
You know,
correct.
a good B school. It's in, like, definitely more than 10 lakhs, 20
Absolutely.
lakhs, and all,
Absolutely.
30 lakhs. Now, how do you expect somebody from a middle class background to
Correct.
have that kind of liability
Right.
and still
Be able to
jump
support
into,
startups.
yeah.
Right, right.
So maybe one thing that I would like to advise that minister, if
Mhm.
that hypothetical scenario mentioned, that this is again another big barrier
Correct, correct. You're right. You're
faced by
absolutely
our brilliant students, because they have this pressure of
the liability or the cost
EMIs.
of management education.
Yes, yes.
Right, right, right. I think that's a very valid point, in the sense that we can probably look at, or the government can probably look at some moratorium or some exemption towards people who are registered for startups, and who are founders of startups. So building on to that, my next question would actually be, in general and specific to IMCIP, what skill set or what qualities do you look for in entrepreneurs when they approach you, either for pitches or to raise funding or to get incubated?
Hmm. See, this is a very, very subjective response, whatever
Right.
I'm going to share with you.
Right.
Uh, because different people look at different things,
Different things.
different
Right.
eyes.
Right.
And it depends on what kind of person I am. Okay. Based on that, how you look at the world also
Right.
changes.
Right.
I um, prefer,
Mhm.
or to me, the top priority is honesty and integrity of
Sure.
that
Sure.
individual. Okay. So you hear pitches when somebody comes and says, "I am the only one doing this. I am the best, startup in this domain and all."
Mhm.
So personally, I would like people who are more grounded.
Right.
Okay, who are humble. Okay, I think this humility is something.
Correct.
Being humble is something which I value a lot, because then you are open to learn. You are open
Right.
to accept. You are flexible. Otherwise, you are not mentorable. My point is that if you are coming to an incubator, you want to be mentored, right?
Right. Right.
You are
Absolutely.
not mentorable. So that is one very basic quality I look at.
Right.
And if that quality is there, then everything can be learned. That attitude
Right.
you cannot develop.
Right. So I think sometimes entrepreneurs get caught up in their sales pitch and they want to sell themselves as the best product in the market, while in reality that may not be the case always. Uh,
No, I just gave an example. I
right,
mean,
right. I
there is
understand.
nothing wrong in saying that, but you can pick up from the behavior
Correct.
that whether this person is flexible, willing to
Right.
listen, or in our terminology we call it mentorable. Are you
Mentor. Right.
mentorable?
Right.
Are you willing to learn? Or you have that know it all attitude that I know a lot.
Correct. Correct.
So I just need funds. I don't need any knowledge or gap.
Correct.
So
Correct.
this kind of startups, I personally don't prefer.
Right, and becomes especially important when you are espousing a social cause. So for social entrepreneurs, becomes a very important quality to have. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
what would
So
be
entrepreneurship is a learning journey. See,
right?
entrepreneurship
Right,
is a learning journey.
correct.
Whatever solution you have today, there is no guarantee
It
the
will not
solution
work
will be
tomorrow.
still valid
Absolutely.
after 6 months, right? Unless you are willing to learn, how
Right.
will you adapt to the new realities?
Correct. Correct. Being adaptable, flexible.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
My second last question actually, if what would be your advice uh, to people on how to make that call of jumping the ship? So for example, there are pieces of literature which say that you fail fast and leave quickly and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
So as far as success and failure of a particular enterprise is concerned, every enterprise will have a gestation period. So it will take maybe 1 year, 2 years,
Hmm.
sometimes 3 months. So how would you advise entrepreneurs on making that call on whether to stick with it or whether to shut shop and move on to something else?
This is a very difficult call, actually. In fact, I also personally suffered several times
Right, right,
whether to
absolutely.
stick or quit, and then I had to quit at certain point in time. See, when you have chosen entrepreneurship
Hmm.
as a career option,
Right.
at least when you have started that journey,
Hmm.
you start with a lot of emotion and passion. Unless you have that
Correct, correct.
emotion and
Right,
passion, you will not go for entrepreneurship. If you're
right.
a sensible person, you will actually take up a job.
Correct, correct, correct.
Okay, so these people are all crazy, mad, and that's the reason I'm talking from a very positive side.
Right, right,
We
absolutely.
need this kind of crazy
Yes, yes.
individuals, right? Now, that is a negative also. The positive is that yes, without that you will not start. But sometimes if you stick too much on that emotion,
Right,
um,
right.
sometimes it can harm you also, because see, the solution is your baby, right? Now you're asking me to abandon that baby.
Correct.
It's the
Correct.
most difficult decision in my life, right? So thinking, that is where you need mentors. The mentors will view your situation from a
Objectively. Right.
objective way, and you are willing to learn, you are willing to listen.
Listen to them. Right.
Then you will be able to take that hard decision you know
Correct.
faster,
Correct.
or I would say that hard decision definitely will not
It
like.
will be hard.
Yeah, but
It
still
will-
you will believe that no, this is
Right.
required for the betterment of
I
my.
think more often than not, mentors tell you what you already know, but you don't want to hear. So from the
Yes.
inside, you know that things are not working out, but mentors actually have the courage and have the foresight to tell you that this is
Hmm.
not working out. Okay, so Dr. Sanyal, my last and final question to you would be that in general, our uh, youth has a tendency to try and experiment and do a lot of things. Now, in
Hmm.
this approach, sometimes they start chasing numbers or they start chasing the glamour of it. For example, you will see in newspapers for most parts of it, or you will see on social media that X valuation, Y amount of funding, Z amount of unicorn, and so on and so forth. So, what would be that one caution or one piece of advice that you give to budding entrepreneurs with regards to entrepreneurship in general and the glamour of it, or the perceived glamour of it?
Mm. Right, right, right. Uh, yeah, see, the glamour is, I said earlier, no, the glamour is important because that motivates uh,
Get people to come in.
people to at least think about entrepreneurship seriously. Okay.
Correct, correct.
But as an individual, you need to really have the right answer that why you are trying to start up.
Mhm.
Okay. Why you are starting this venture. Is that because you want to make a lot of money? That's the reason you was, and you have seen those stories and you're
Correct,
influenced by that, or you are starting because you want to solve a problem, you want to address a need which you passionately believe that it needs to be solved, right?
right.
And see, I have not achieved much in terms of creating a big business or unicorn, so I really have no right to make any adverse comment on that. But my personal belief is, if you focus on solving the problem, okay,
Mhm.
and work passionately towards that, taking advice from the right mentors. The
Right.
word right is important because
Correct, correct.
nowadays I find there are more mentors than
And
entrepreneurs, which I
startups.
don't know is a good sign or bad sign. But working with right mentors, you pursue that and you create a sustainable venture
Hmm.
with the right kind of business model.
Right.
Hmm. Um, Now, I value that more than uh, chasing valuations and
Growth.
doing whatever
Right.
required to build a valuation.
Right.
Okay, so this is my preference. I think that is more sustainable rather than doing some
Right.
quick stuff to raise valuation.
Right. Because essentially it is not just a way to make a quick buck, right? You just don't want to get into it, make something, and more like a hit and run thing. So I think what you say makes a lot of sense and is a sound piece of advice to more entrepreneurs. So, any final message, any guidance, any tips that you would want to pass on?
Yeah, see, uh, I have chosen to be in this domain, entrepreneurship ecosystem,
Hmm.
because I believe that entrepreneurship can the way, change India. It's a transformational kind of impact. Okay,
Correct. Correct.
but it can only happen if our youngsters focus on solving problems for India.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, uh, not just looking at what's existing outside India and making an Indian version of that.
Right.
Okay, so for example, we have success stories from the food delivery startups, the
Sure.
Swiggy's and Zomatos.
Sure.
So now, in every locality or every state, you will see youngsters trying to build a local food delivery
Correct.
startup.
Correct.
That
Correct.
is useful, no doubt about it. But how many people's life you are going to impact?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think I have a lot of hope uh, in the creative or innovation capability of the youth.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing is that I think we should, is the responsibilities on us, myself, yourself,
Right. Right.
to guide these youngsters so that they can focus on the more important uh, areas uh, which solves the problem of a large
Of the
number of people in
society,
India.
of the country. Right.
Yeah, that is my appeal to the youth of the country. Definitely, I want you to make money. I wanted to become a unicorn, but please don't forget those. I think more than 60, 70 crore people. I think
Right.
probably around 100 crore people who are living every day
Correct.
having some big challenges.
Correct.
And you can do it. You all can do it.
Right. I think that's a fantastic message, and perhaps uh, any progress is incomplete if it helps you alone. So I don't think you can become an entrepreneur truly, in a true sense of the word, if you add value only for yourself. So with this, we come to the end of this episode of Entrepreneurs 11. Dr. Sanyal, thank you so much for your lovely insights, and it was a wonderful session. Uh, that's it from our side. Thank you so much.
thank you. I enjoyed the discussion.